It was a big thing in Edinburgh, dancing. It was, and down here probably. It was the only thing we had. We were still just after the war, you know what I mean? There was cinema and dancing. That's where everybody congregated. Whether you could dance or not, you'd sugar, shake your feet, anything. Hello, Martin.
Hello. How?
Now,
Buying new shoes.
I'd buy them to go to a charity shop.
Ah, well done.
Yeah, they're very, very good, Martin.
Very good, yes,
very
yes.
Good.
I know. It's a very good
You went to the charity shop?
Your husband, Terry, explain to me charity shop.
Yeah.
But I don't understand. 100 meters and I...
yeah, you got it.
I came understand.
Yeah.
Charity, yes, I know.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
it?
In other words, second hand.
Yes, but the charity shop was open. It was open, and there stay somebody who said to me where is second hand, and there waited this shoes for me.
Yeah.
Yes, my
Good.
size. Yes, I.
Yeah, and they look very, very smart.
Only £3.
Wow,
It's
hey,
no possible.
bargain.
Yes, I'm so satisfied.
A real bargain.
Yes, and I would like to introduce myself. I'm Martin.
Well,
Graham.
I'm Graham.
Yes,
And
nice to meet you.
Martin. And so this is your second session.
Second session here, but I am a member of two other groups. Yes, dancing seniors groups. Yes.
Yeah. But he hasn't danced a lot. He's only been on a Thursday. He went on a Thursday.
Yes.
See, he doesn't seem to understand me because I have a
Yes, it
Scotch
is not
accent.
possible for me. I mean, I forgot
Graham will
English.
explain what he's doing later on.
Yes.
Okay? He'll come across. At the minute, I'm getting into
Yes, it's
Yeah,
okay.
well-
okay.
Well, I'll nearly finish because I
Right.
know you've got so much to do anyway. Hey, you. I conjure you, and there you are. You're a figment of my imagination. I can do to you as I will, any force, any whim as I would, were you real. But you're not real. You're not really here, always somewhere else, in your head, off with the fairies, or on your phone. Is this a haunting? Are we ghosts? Tears in the fabric, little condensed pellets of all the poison and the bad that happened in this club, when the camera only recorded the good times, the camaraderie, the affairs. But you are not even a ghost. Since then you would once have had to have been alive. I have danced with you. We've made love, made children, but never really been together in the same world, never really shared the idle time or occupied the common ground. You got in my way. Yes. We were agreed on that at least. All the times I called for you, and you came and sat there before me, so attentive, so there for me. I got on a roll and made up the entirety of you from this spook whatever. Fiction upon fiction, the tumultuous mass of their ephemerality pressing down on my lungs like an alien atmosphere. I have staked my life on an invention, this bubble. Let me pop you. You over there? Moody, silent, disgruntled, unhappy you.
You come at first and You don't know one step from the other. You put one foot in front and you're watching, and then at the end of a year or something like that, even 3-4 weeks, you picked up one dance. And so you go on and you pick up another dance. Before you know where you are, you know new ones when they're coming out, you do them. So, yeah, it's tiny little steps, crawling and then walking, but in this case, dancing.
A good exercise because it's a gentle exercise. It's not like pounding the pavement and all your joint being pounding. Not good. I have a knee replacement last year. The joints worn out from too much dancing. So 1 year now, I'm okay, fine.
Well, it keeps the brain active
And also
and
your
the body.
breathing. It's
Yes.
good for your heart,
Yeah.
good for your
Legs.
osteoporosis because you're weight bearing, you see.
Yeah.
You're not going to fall over. Well, everything really is
Everything about it is
beneficial.
good.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Yeah.
as I say, I'd do it every day if we had the chance.
Yeah. It's just good fun, really, you know, and you're amongst company, and
That's
you
right.
know,
It's the company as much as
Yeah.
and the exercise.
yeah, it definitely keeps you fit.
Oh yes,
It's
especially
good
the
for-
quick step.
What are you gawping at? What is it that you imagine you see? How I'll end up? My death, my history, all the missed opportunities, the overwhelming misery of it all. Is that what you see? No, this is not so much a face-to-face as a near miss. One world beside another, but no interplanetary contact. It's as if I cannot see you. I cannot decode this face as a face, just a screed of dull pixels for which I do not possess the software. So what is it? Oh, my darling, I know what it is that you think you see. My common or garden humanity. The one thing I'm supposed to share with you, and all the others. That I could sit beside you on the bus and not recognize you. I could just walk on by. Indeed, I could walk right through you. You are more than invisible to me. Less than invisible to me. You are nothing. Blah. To your humanity and its godforsaken commonwealth. He wants to tell her that he loves her. He sort of has the words ready. Here, in a singularity of love, a potentiality. But he cannot bring himself to speak his love. It feels to him as if the words, once spoken, would be too much. The love would be too much for either him or her, or both, to bear. And so he declines. He will not speak for fear his love, once spoken would be too much for the world, for reality. And so he declines. And so what he most keenly feels here, as if it were the quintessence of him, his signature, must remain unsaid, as if it had never been, as if it could never have been. And he must live with that. And she must live without that never said love.
On the other hand, just as likely the reason he will not speak is that this, his love, once uttered, would sound pathetic, only ringing true in the hollow of its very own tiny space. No room for her to respond. It will astound, not in the expansiveness of its reach or the gasp of its dare, but in the squint of its scope and the brevity of its elaboration. Wow, was that it? She'll think that.
She won't say it.
But she will think it. No point rubbing salt into the wound. How little is his love. Such a little journey it travels, such a little room it stalks, and with such a little splash it breaks upon the shore of her consideration. How could he have thought it could conceivably have taken purchase in the storehouse of her heart?
How could he ever have thought otherwise?
You feel like your life is like those deleted scenes they shove onto DVDs to make them seem better value for money. You know, the scenes that never made it into the real film, the one people were prepared to pay to see. And when you can be bothered to look at them, when your Saturday night really is that soul-destroying, what do you see? Well, they do sort of add something to the story. You know, the colour's not quite right, they're partially treated. They didn't waste time grading it like the real film. And the sound's not all there, it's kind of thin. And the rhythm's all wrong because they worked so hard to hone that down, to make the real film feel whole, like nothing else is needed. This deleted scene just feels out of step, not a part of the world, as they say, of the film. And that is how you feel your life has played out. At times, not every screening, but most repeats, at the dead of night, on the, he might joke, niche channels. Like an unfinished scene. Not incomplete because there's so much left to do, but discarded because there's nothing left to be done. Doesn't quite gel. It's only telling us things we already know or don't need to know, but in a less amusing way, with less economy of effort.
Less panache.
A redundancy that threatens to draw attention to the weaknesses that inevitably lie hidden in the whole, amongst the real the film needs to convince us of, threatening to reveal its world as just another make-believe, just another put-up job. So, if you want a hit, better to forsake the scene to save the film. And boy, does he want a hit.
because
That's it.
when we retired, we thought we need something to fill our afternoons.
We needed a hobby or something that we could do together.
It was like driving a car when I first started. Headaches, didn't they? And they used to think, God, what am I doing here? Doing this? I could have got up and walked out more than once.
Just didn't click at all, did it?
Didn't click. There were two ladies that taught us, Irene and Audrey.
Yeah.
Irene wore trousers and she was the lady. Audrey wore a skirt and she was the man. And she was a big woman.
It was hard to follow because we were trying to follow the one in trousers that looked like the man. And
You can imagine trying to follow two ladies round. Anyway, I used to get mixed up. She'd got some. I used to try and get it back at Colin and Sheila. Anyway, she used to watch us dance round. And
used to dread getting down to that corner where she stood watching.
Because we always went wrong. And she
Every
says,
time we got round there.
you will do it right. She was a big woman, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She'd get me like that. She'd throw me around that way and that way. And she says, lockstep. I don't know what a lockstep is. She says, you've been doing it for weeks now. Chassé. What's a chassé? She says, you will do it. And she was that big, she could hold me up practically. Didn't she?
Yeah, she used to get hold of me if I couldn't do it. She says, come here, I'll take you. Well, she used to throw me around like a rag doll because she was a big lady and I was only tiny. Oh dear. It nearly finished a lot of times.
A lot of times, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah.
Exercising, you are meeting people. I meet all these people. I don't know them, but I talk to them as a bit of social because I'm alone here. I'm quite lonely here. You see, so because I have no family here, so you're very alone. So you have to make friends. You have to go in a group regularly to get to know them.
They get a partner, you see, and they dance with them. But I mean, you're never lonely if you go to a dance like that. Never lonely, because if you're missing, they either ring you up or they want to know where you are, or you know, which is good really, because I mean, you're not in your house laying there dead for weeks. You know what I mean? They soon find you.
It's the best thing anybody can do. If they're lonely, if they've got nobody, or they're bored, take up dancing. It's so easy, because you'll always get somebody to help you do the steps and things like that. It is so easy, and you meet a lot of nice friends. And into the bargain, I always bring sweeties.
Sometimes, I know, you look at me and you think, because you loved me, of all the others whom you did not love, who passed you by, whose caresses you never felt, from whose kind words and graceful interventions you never benefited. This lover would have had depth and mould-breaking inventiveness when it came to the care they would have taken of you as you came and went, and the courage and enterprise they would have mustered every time you strode out to meet the world. This other would have spent their life upon you, and for such an exorbitant sacrifice you would have rendered yours up wholesale in exchange to this imaginary being. And then, because of him, you hate me, don't you? Me, who loved you without condition, whose love you embraced so freely and so wittingly. I dare to speak what you feel, but are too afraid to utter, lest in mouthing your fears you summon them up from down below. Make yourself indeed the creature you've always felt at heart you are. If my cruelty hadn't worded him into being, he'd be lurking still about your heart. Or maybe you'd have forgotten about him and made up an entirely other you.
A happy one.
Who skipped along the lane as a child and caught the sun under her chin with that buttercup. The one whose imaginary lover marinated himself in the honeyed nectar of her life force, whose children gathered about them at the beginning and end of each day as if their presence banished time. That one.
The happy one.
The one my remorseless unpicking never left space for amongst the interminable trial of words, to appear as a mere image in your head, let alone to simply come into being. You hate me for the lives loving me meant you could not live. You're sorry, but that's just how you sometimes feel, whilst looking longingly at me.
In some idle moment.
When it seems that time is without succession and all is suspended, looking at me looking at you, you're overcome by all the other lives you ought to have lived. No mercy then for lovers, no end to torment in love's blisses, even then, in the heat. To imagine what else might have been, in whose arms else you could have languished. Even there in the depths of our embrace, which we too
only of all the multitude
can, must share, where all the differentiating seems to be resolved, all the separateness is joined, all the incompleteness is made whole.
What dread!
But there, in that embrace of love, we reenact our own worlds, two apart, two alone. You whisper in my ear, forgive me, my one and only love.
My world.
My nowhere else but here and now. My obligation and my choice. My destiny and my life.
And a lot of them used to have domestics where if you don't do it right, the wife, if you don't do it right, I'm not coming with you anymore. And we used to be there, and you stood on my toe once, so I took my shoe off, threw it in the middle of the hall and said, if you want to get in my shoes, you can have them. And they all used to laugh.
If we went wrong, we used to laugh.
We used to, and that was how we dealt with it.
Some took it really
We
serious.
never really had a domestic.
No.
If we go wrong, we laugh. But some of them, you're doing it wrong, you know. But that got them when we threw the shoe in the middle, didn't it?
So does that really happen? People have proper stand-up rows in the middle of a dance floor?
Yes, often. Yes, often we have rows. I'm not saying that me and Betty don't have a row, but we don't take it onto the dance floor. In the early years, we saw that much people having domestics and arguments. We decided that we'd laugh it off. Anyway, mainly, it's the married couples that have the argument. And it's mainly a female that gets onto the male. Wait for it, because the female is the better dancer. Anyway, it goes something like this. That's twice you've stood on my feet. Now look at you, you should be turning round. I told you, if you do that again, we're going home. So off the trot, sit down, wait a couple of dances. Then they get up and go back for battle again. Anyway, another thing that comes to mind was a fortnight ago today, Friday afternoon, at the dance where Beth teaches, runs the dance. We sit next to a lady that hasn't been going very long, and she said to me, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah, sure, go ahead, ask me a question. She said, are you two married? I said, you married? I said, yeah, we've been married 55 years and she's still the love of my life. So I gave it a thought and thought, well, why did you ask me that? She said, because you're always laughing and joking. And I thought again, does that mean because we're married we're not supposed to talk?
She couldn't believe you two were married, is that true?
That's true, true.
He would have to come and ask me to dance. But if I said no, say somebody came and asked me to dance and I thought, and I went, no thanks, I'm sitting this one out. And then the guy you like came and asked you. You couldn't do it, there'd be a war. You couldn't do it. Rivalry, it was really a big no-no.
Have you spoken? Made another new beginning in your mind? Odd phrase that, new beginning. Pure tautology, as if two words would prove what one alone cannot. But you do have a certain turn of phrase. Not the most remarkable, I'm sure you'll be the first to acknowledge, but nevertheless, a turn in its own right. It's not something that's going to take you very far. You're almost certainly not going to be able to make a living out of it. But it does carry you some way along the road, doesn't it? Tides you over, gets you around the myriad awkwardnesses that threaten to stifle a person or lead to misadventure. Oh, it must get you noticed in various situations as well. Quite a card, even a catch. Your turn, a catch. But it marks you. Also, what dribbles out of his mouth so apparently casually, you are branded by it. It obliges you, whether you like it or not, to a certain character you must play, the card or the catch. And that is as tiresome as it is empowering. To be trapped in what makes you noticeable, makes you stand out in front of the crowd, indeed, that makes you you. You were always charmed by your own inadequacies, I could see it. You sitting there, and suddenly that half-hidden smirk would cross your face, or even a little chuckle at the private joke that is your life. Self-satisfied. I suppose that's something to be grateful for. A project to aim at. Set the bar low enough and even you can make it to the other side. Why not turn a handicap into a blessing? Holy idiot. I guess I admire that in you. Your life is plan B. Never expecting the victory. Always anticipating being overlooked for the succession. The comfort of never having dared. The security of the mundane. The comfort, the coziness of habit. The fallacy of certainty, yes.
Admit
You
it.
charm me. The way you have made mediocrity a life's work. Why suffer frustration? The sense of unfulfillment, the daily reminder when you can flip all that into a virtue, or even better, a pleasurable vice. That's why you kept it so close to your chest. Why you look with barely concealed pity at the ambitions of others, their leaps at glory, their claims to fame, to perpetuity. You've opted out. And the rewards are too titivating to share. After all, you can't risk it. There may only be so much mediocrity to go around. Let's keep it our little secret. You wouldn't want to stampede. No. I am well and truly attracted into the orbit of your charms. I'm envious of something the having would make me wretch, like a desire, warped by the heat of its own furnace. This is where I've ended up, beguiled by qualities that disgust me, stymied by the little reach of your ambition, the tiny thrust of your desire, the settled prospect of your deliverance up to all that is unastonishing, uninspiring, unwon. But I do not for one moment labour at all this under any illusion that I, if I chose to express it, feel any differently from you. The feeling, as they often say,
is mutual.
It is perhaps
Indeed.
the one thing we share. Our bitter self-awareness of our mutual self-deception. It makes up what we like to call our love.
Yes, and you find as people get older, they can't do a full lock. They'll do a little shuffle instead of a lock because...
Bad hips.
It used to be packed solid. But a lot of older people have died, got ill, can't do it no more. It's life, you just try and do the best you can for them. And that's why I like to be cheery and happy around them, because they go home and they say, oh, we had a good day today, because they're cheery and happy.
We're the youngest, aren't we? You know,
Yeah.
and we're 76.
So we're hoping to still be coming here when we're 100, that lady over there.
We go to a club on a Wednesday. There's 11, is it 11?
11 ladies, well, and men, over 90. 11, yeah.
I took it up after I retired. I started going to a Keep Fit class and met another lady there, and she told me about this local dance on a Wednesday evening. And as I say, that's where I started.
She was a widow, 40 years.
Never expected to meet anybody now because there are too many other widows around.
Anyway, he unfortunately died 17 years ago, and I thought, this is my time now. So we'd had 50 years, so that's not bad. And I took up sequence dancing and a bit of ballroom, line dancing, and never looked back. Absolutely wonderful. I'm having a wonderful life. Don't care about housework. If we don't get done, it gets left.
Do you remember? I shall never forget. Were you there? The account of the death of a parent.
Or was it a lover?
Or a child. And how that cleft a body, my body, into three. It was as if I became three entirely differentiated beings. The one you would expect, the grieving child.
Lover.
Parent. Traumatized to suffer the disappearance of the greatest source of love that could ever have been felt. The other, standing there in the hospital ward, for let's say it happened there, cogitating on the mechanics of what would now need to be done, who would now need the unfailing support, the go-to for all the business that death drums up. And then there was this third, this outsider, witnessing the scene as if from a distance, though right there in the room. A drone with an unblinking stare, fascinated to be so close to another's final job. And it did not matter how very dear to me this parent, lover, child had been. How much I had wished this time could have been indefinitely postponed. The curious one took their place in the room, jostled the other me's, but all of us separate, existing in distinct worlds, each with its own rhythm and mood, somehow earthing into the main event. I cannot say if these selves, because they felt more than parts, if these selves have come back together since. Maybe they had never been one. Maybe that was the illusion. The use of the first person, as if constant iteration would produce a one and only me.
Practice makes perfect.
Maybe up until that gouging, tearing passing, it had been possible to hold on to the fantasy of me passing as myself, one passing cleaving another. Shall I ever be that old me again? Did I ever know who that was? And anyway, I hear you say, what does any of it matter when death will undo us all before too long?
I think your marriage is richer by it, by having other other people in your life. Because some people don't have that, do they? They're a bit too in each other's pockets, and then when they lose them, they're just bereft, aren't they? I mean, I was, obviously, it hit me hard, but I'd still got places that I could still come to, and yeah, it's the going back that's the hard bit. Going back to an empty place.
The men die off earlier than the women. Because the wartime, they die off before that. And now the men still die before the women, usually. But because there's shortage of men, so when women do the men's step too, otherwise she got no dance, I get no dance. I'm a lady, I don't like to do the men's part. But unless I have to, I don't want to.
How many men are there here today? 3? But most dances you go to, it's mostly ladies, widowed ladies.
Imagine how I would feel if you were dead. Say it took place somewhere else, off scene and out of sight, out of mind. There would be some sense of loss, not regret, but a kind of reawakening. No, a stirring of the old grief that has never left me in peace. That would be it. A grieving over grief, a grief for grief that is without end until, presumably, I too end. And is that any sadder, any more wretched than the usual kind of loss? You know, the we'll never dance together kind. All the things we never got to do but kept saying we were going to do but never quite got round to it sort. I still feel you everywhere about me. In bed, the other room. I think my kind of a grief would be worse. Not because I never got to do those things, spend that time, be with you, but because I never got to try myself out on you. I never got to be the me I could have been. And that is a grief swollen. Because your dying would force me to face up to the fact that since we fell out of love, since you were to all intents and purposes dead to me, I have never really been alive.
So it's 64 years since I stopped ballroom dancing.
You picked it up, haven't you?
Yeah. You don't forget. You might just need a bit of a refresher, but once you've got it, you don't forget it.
Time many you think husband and wife, and they're not really. They're just dancing partners. So you don't assume. You know.
Dancing's been my life. I started when I was 40. I've been dancing 48 years. Oh yeah. That's been my life. I haven't done anything else really.
Been a bit back to Blackpool, haven't we?
Oh yes.
And it's really nice. Now, there is a couple of gentlemen that dance together,
and I took a video of them, and they dance really lovely.
Yeah, a couple of gay chaps.
Yeah, in fact, I've got it on my camera at home.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
The little one, the smaller one.
They're both very,
both
very
are
good dancers.
Yes.
Oh, yes, very good. And they'll take either part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was about 17, 18, I was thinking about it, and I met my husband just before my 19th birthday, and I never did anymore because he was Royal Navy and away at sea. And he wasn't a ballroom dancer, but he could dance. And I just gave it up, and we had the family then. And the only time I did ballroom was once in Singapore, and the padre asked me to dance. And as soon as he got hold of me, he said, "You've done ballroom dancing?" I said, "Yes." And nobody else got up, and I had a skirt that was split to the knee. It was up there when I'd finished. Tony brought me back to the table, and my husband said, "I hope you enjoyed that, Tony." He said, yes. He said, "Well, it was the first and the last." and later I found out he was a bit of a goer with the ladies, the padre.
You are.
Present.
To me.
Now.
Absent though you are.
Present.
In your blazing self.
Though surely gone.
Secure in here.
Chattering away in here.
Filling this brimful with occasions. Without you, I could not be.
My first, my one and only, is nothing without your second.
Without this one facing this other.
Without this coincidence, how could there be an instance?
And a place for that instance to happen in.
It's all measured here.
In this in-between, or at least...
It all begins with us.
The leap across the gap between 1 and 2.
The earthing and the projecting.
The facing.
And though I guess I shall never really come to know who you are.
This difference opens up all the possibilities of me.
This forever asymmetry of you and me.
That can never be settled.
Never accounted for.
Never truly and finally and fully answered.
The asymmetry of that gesture of love.
Even of the recognition. I have heard you cry or seen you wince in pain.
Even in that recognition, no settlement.
No community.
Searching in your looks.
That offhand remark you made before you went upstairs.
Never done with.
Looking for the same in this difference.
A different same.
And if you saw somebody was really looked like he fancied you and was interested, and you were dancing with the guy who'd ask you out, you would put a little bit of suave in you, a little wee bit more. Look at me. They did, they all did it. And these that say they didn't, they're telling fibs. Or else they're not very good dancers.
I think you both got to have a certain rhythm. You've got to be able to pick up the rhythm together. I think that's probably what it is, something like that. I don't really know.
And I love her. I love her. We got engaged, didn't we? 2 months ago.
Early this year, yes, we decided we sort of put the seal on our relationship. Yeah. Whether we get as far as being married, I don't know.
I remember the instant I first saw you.
You want to say I grew on you?
In me.
Like a virus.
You tricked my immune system and cloned my DNA. More than sex.
More like the whole reach of our lives together opened up in that instant.
The entire volume.
The granular detail.
All the things we'd be getting up to.
The children we would have.
Everything in one vertiginous glimpse.
A whole coupled life laid bare.
And I have to say,
despite how bloody awful it's been since, me and my man,
I never got that with anyone else.
No one else ever got that with me. At least, I think you got that with me. You have conceded as much.
When pressed. And you know, I can still feel the force of that.
Revelation?
Like I'm still falling into its depths.
Still snarled up in its minutiae.
Its verisimilitude after all these years.
And the intervening horrors.
The distractions of
being alive.
None of that has ever smothered the thrill of that night. Breath sucking out of me.
Head fizzing.
Like a jet stream that pushes all my other moods about.
An earthquake that raises everything you build to the ground.
Again.
And again and again. I think I may then,
even in that instant,
have wanted to see past you.
To look away.
To imagine another life without you.
You would have realized.
Even on first look.
The final cost of commitment.
Of surrender.
Of the dare you dared me to. Before you.
You weren't living.
I was busy.
Solving living.
Myself without reference.
A kind of blandness.
I'd lost all the fun from life.
Along the way.
Half through the journey.
A lay-by somewhere.
I just didn't enjoy things anymore.
Hanging out.
Quality time.
Mini breaks.
Everything backing up as hard labor.
All over beige.
All things vanilla.
Life eviscerated into a procedure.
Managed rather than lived.
A term served.
Rather than a day accomplished.
And then I got in your way.
And danced me back into life.
To stake what little's left on play.
But there was no alternative.
I was the only one in the room. Do you remember? You must remember.
I caught your eye.
And you smiled at me. Ah. There you are. Absolute you. I see that now. Presumably obvious to everyone else.
But this shell is not the answer.
It's the antechamber.
The come-on.
Pure theatre. Before the real work starts.
And that work is all interior.
Beyond show.
That work takes a lifetime.
Or a duration that feels like a lifetime.
That work's different for you and different for me.
Singular.
Original.
Kind of personal.
So customized the stranger can't be bothered.
They're just passing through.
With their own bucket list.
You were lucky.
To get stuck here.
Returning my gaze.
Wondering what stars came together to make you, you.
Spending your life with me.
Puzzling at what makes me, me.
You glance.
You look.
You peer.
Into.
As if.
But then?
What do you see of me? Am I as absolute, that is, as you? From where I am, this feels the mother of all approximations. This fleshy sack of swirling impulses.
Half thoughts.
Misrecognitions all sloshing around in this flimsy envelope of skin.
A draft, masquerading as a self.
Daring to claim the same rights as absolute you.
Having the temerity to draw breath from the same celestial sphere as bears me up.
I wish you had my eyes and could see yourself as I see you, glorious in your certainty.
Complete amongst a congregation.
Each also sure and certain of their very own wholenesses. But that is the one leap imagination seems congenitally incapable of making.
From you to me.
Leaving me here.
Before all and sundry.
Before you, as approximate me.
I met my husband dancing, actually. I met him at the Sherwood Rooms, and he'd just come back from Spain. He'd been on holiday, and he had a nice brown suit and a little bow tie. And it was lovely, we just clicked, and, you know, and I carried on seeing him, and I got married. But we didn't carry on dancing, you know, okay. He wasn't that bothered. He had chess, he had table tennis, he had clockmaker, he had lots of interests, so he wasn't really bothered about dancing anymore.
Because we're the old school, not the modern ones, we're the old school.
I certainly wouldn't ask Colin to dance, would you?
Oh, I wouldn't ask him. No, it's up to the man to ask him. It was like when we were at one of the Warners, that gentleman asked me to dance a waltz, because I refused to do a waltz with a woman. That's the one dance I won't do with a woman. To me, that's for husband and wives, or girl and boyfriend. Because it's like the last waltz with you. And we always did that when we went to balls and that, because we used to go to a lot of balls. And that last waltz was always with my husband. Yeah.
We like it like that.
The rough and ready that chasses into the rough and tumble.
A sort of just about only kind of getting it vaguely right sort of thing.
I'm still adjusting to you.
Adjusting to breathing.
For a start.
The play of looks and lookings away when I walk through the door.
The way you interpreted the music, how you turned it into steps.
At first, you were all feet to me.
Awkward.
Delicate things, ever so slightly ahead or off the beat.
And then I saw your face.
And danced me back. And in by these soul-bewitching eyes.
At the same time,
the feet were still moving.
That wasn't fair.
Life isn't.
I suddenly realized you were saying things.
You had to adjust to my words.
The tempo.
The mood.
Your mood became the only mood in the room.
The only mood in your heart.
It was what I worried about all the next day. How could I adjust my mood?
Yourself.
To it. How could I make the two dance as one?
In time.
For so long.
Without that effort of recalibration.
Up until that point, all the other workarounds.
Which didn't stop, of course, but had to get choreographed into this.
They felt like compromises. Like I was having to bend myself out of truth.
To get through the day.
Through life. I was grinding down my soul to fit.
The more compelling claim.
To life.
So you'd slip down and no one would taste you.
But you tasted me.
Yes. I bit. I swallowed. I chewed.
Approximation has saved us from completeness and the closed couple we would have slotted into.
What would we have talked about had our love been so tight?
Just the silence of the faithful and the occasional simpering smile. No.
No surprises.
At the end of the party.
In the waiting room.
That little blessed niggle of doubt before you collapse into sleep.
The I should have, I'll say tomorrow.
And make it right.
Make it up.
That gets lost in your dreams and in the morning is forgotten.
Because superfluous.
Seems to me now the most trivial of occupations.
The point of it all.
To spend time.
Our lives.
With one another.
Intimately.
All those snuggles on the sofa.
The summers by the sea. Oftentimes in silence.
This empire of ourselves. Beyond the machinations of words.
Entangled in routine.
Blissfully undocumented.
Utterly without incident. Why don't we replay our timeline like couples do?
Do you remember when we
did such and such?
How we laughed.
Cried. I don't remember a thing we ever did worth reprising. No.
Our love. Shall I call it that?
Is it ours to own?
It isn't a box set you can binge on.
We don't have a special song to request of the DJ.
I have never vowed in rhyme or meter some particular appreciation of him.
I don't think I've clocked the colour of her eyes.
He don't giggle or well up at otherwise incomprehensible references in the nods and winks of some private language.
We don't claim exceptionalism, do we?
Have we ever witnessed a miracle?
Let alone one derived from our love. I'm warming to her label.
No. I shan't ever render down my love for him to an emoji on a Hallmark card.
Like bad marriage vows or the inadequate obituary.
2 years ago, I went to Morecambe.
Morecambe.
We was a show every night, just us two, and everybody.
Yes, and there was a fellow got this accordion, and he obviously played local dancers, and he started to play, and he says, can anybody do a certain, say like a saunter together, something of that nature? And of course we got up, nobody else got up. So for the rest of the week, we provided the entertainment. The manager thanked us.
Showing off a bit, yeah. We did.
Floor to ourselves.
Oh, we did, didn't we? We did.
Well, we did a bit, yes, yeah.
You know, I think through all this time, I've got you wrong.
You thought I was your rock.
But now,
suddenly,
this evening,
across this room,
I see you are not that.
I am indeed the opposite of that.
Since every day when you return my smile,
I put that you I thought so absolute to trial.
You make me answer the same questions.
Again and again.
How am I?
Who are you?
Why am I?
What are you doing here with me?
Is my judgment fair?
Your heart true?
Because that's the condition of this relation.
Neither of us knew anything about when we fell into each other's arms.
A condition that is impersonal.
Like it has no time and place.
No bodies through which to articulate itself.
Just a force.
A blind, dumb, urgent force.
Happening to us.
Like we had no say in its charging through us.
The great potential between all spirit and all matter.
To declare anew each time I look into your eyes.
The provisional trueness of this love.
The clumsy perfection of its fit.
Right here.
Between us.
In this flesh.
How come the world before you?
How come the sun shines when you've not yet opened your eyes?
How come the trains run when you have not yet got out of bed?
Or how come research institutes the whole world wide bother about the future when you've not yet made up your mind?
Every time I am with you,
the world gets made up.
Made up anew.
A new world.
Like the old.
But true. And this new world.
It sings for you in a new key each time.
Shines a brand new colour that only existed in my mind before then.
It spills over.
Starts everything up again.
With every breath. And for that reason,
I am not scared.
You are not wearied by the task.
I welcome it.
Because for as long as you are tested,
I know I am in love with you.
And for as long as you are made to answer,
you are listening.
And for that reason,
I've got you wrong.
And my love has taken great pains to put you right. And yet,
how strange I cannot love my neighbour. I say you are the one.
The one thing you love.
And yet,
you should love that world.
Because you are in it.
Because I feel its pain. And yet...
Many times it comes close to me.
Close, but not intimate.
Not my neighbour, though, living next door.
Some service provider who does some odd jobs for you around the house.
I don't notice him about the place.
And then?
Sometimes I'm forced.
Because the odd job's not done to your satisfaction.
To look him in the eye.
Abracadabra.
He appears in front of me.
Because he failed to do his job.
And looking at him then.
You don't understand how inside one heart your love for me can live alongside your refusal of him.
Whom I should love as my neighbour.
Because all your love.
All my ways to the world.
In this instance to him.
Are through you.
And for that reason.
He's just a slave to me.
And seeing him fail so suddenly stops you in your tracks.
And in his gaze, because it shocks me to see he does appear to possess a soul that, like me, also sees a world and imagines another.
You see my love.
And know and feel and care for him as my neighbour. Your love extends the whole world to me.
And you feel bad that you have treated them badly.
When they are, indeed, all my neighbours.
What if you will never be fully present to me until you are gone?
that you take my being here,
for granted.
or that this being present is somehow lacking.
Not the real thing.
Not enough.
And so only in desertion or death.
In the rupture of that loss.
Do you become there for me?
In remembering, I materialize.
Appear, sitting in your chair.
In the familiar way.
Appear.
But now, maybe.
You are already a trick of the light.
A fancy in the blur.
All the detail.
All the decisions.
The manner.
Just smoke and mirrors hiding the real show.
That you are not actually here until you are no longer here.
Never in body, in flesh.
Only ever truly in this heart.
Or traces of electrical activity amongst the synapses of your brain.
Imagine if that were true.
So all this would only be a rehearsal for the main event. My going.
The parting.
But necessary, of course, because without that stuff...
The comings and goings.
The downtime.
The hopes, etc.
The practical existence.
Without all of that, there would be no mutuality.
No heartache.
No joy. When you have finally gone.
As I must, surely, finally go.
Only then will you oblige me to feel you alongside in the room.
I will appear to you.
Like that first time.
When I was all unknown.
All future.
All possibility to you.
All relations henceforward relate to that relation.
Me and you.
More present now, in that room.
Years on.
Than then.
More present with each succeeding day as those other possibilities fail to materialize.
Manifolded within it, fall on the slippery surface of our everyday.
As fact and history swarm around.
To crowd us out of this present.
With what can never now be done.
So the presence of that first look returned.
Becomes.
More real.
More felt than feeling.
More alive than life.
I love theatre. I just love life, I tell you, yeah, just love life all told.
We met at a dance, my husband and I. Now you're going back a long while, because we've been married 59 years. We met on Christmas Eve at Codner Welfare in Derbyshire. And it was a big hall, packed it was. And anyway, the teacher, that we didn't know her then, but the teacher that was in charge of this dance put people together and took you round and then stopped halfway round and put you with somebody, and she happened to put me with Ray. And that was how we started dancing. I'd never seen him before in my life. Just did that one dance with him and that was it. New Year's Eve, went to the dance. We were both there again. So we did start chatting then and we did do a little bit of dancing. But then when we got married and had children, we didn't dance. But we met at a dance. So it seems ironic.
All the snuggles on the sofa, snuggles all the summers by the sea, those summers are oftentimes in silence, entangled in routine. We remember very little, much less than we suppose we should. Our life was not a box set. Our story wasn't on demand. When I think of you, when you are a fancy in the blood, already a trick of the light. Nowhere to be, nowhere to be found. You're just a spell of time, just a spell of time, just a spell of time. There you are then, absolute you. Glorious in your certainty. Carrier of all my hopes. More alive than life, my love. When I think of you, when you are a fancy in the blood, already a trick of the light. Nowhere to be, nowhere to be. You're just a spell of time, just a spell of time, just a spell of time, just a spell. just a spell of time, just a spell of time, just a spell of time, just a spell of time.
It's a window, isn't it?
That opens.
But it's just a spell of time.
A little spell.
I'm glad you got in my way. And stuck.
For the time being.
So our celebrity dancers here would like to invite you, amongst you, whoever is up for it, to come join us on the dance floor for the Square Tango.